This podcast has been brought to you today by standingtallnz.org.
Welcome to the Standing Tall NZ podcast, where we bring you real stories, expert advice, and everything you need to know about navigating life in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Whether it's about financial capability, well-being, or making the most of your future, we're here to help you to stand tall in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Dr. Alexander Stevens II, and today I'm teaming up with my mentee, Sione Finau, as we delve into the world of KiwiSaver as part of our financial capability series, and how he's taken early action to set himself up for a long-term success. I'll be chatting with him as he secures his financial future, including the brave move of putting 10% of his income straight into his KiwiSaver account. We'll talk about his journey, how KiwiSaver works, and tips for anybody looking to get ahead on their retirement savings. Kia ora koutou katoa, Sione, how are you?
Yeah, malo. Good to be back on again.
Good. What have you been up to?
I remember we did a podcast
A couple of weeks ago,
a couple of weeks ago. That one was just entirely about was in relation to finance. Financial capability in general.
That's right.
And then within that podcast, you're like, okay, this would be the next title of the podcast.
Yes.
This would be talked about in the next podcast. And then and that's when I interviewed you.
Absolutely, and now we're going to swap places.
Now I'm in the hot seat. But
You are on the hot seat, and the topic is KiwiSaver. So, look, let's talk a little bit about it. So, KiwiSaver is a voluntary savings scheme set up by the government to help New Zealanders to save for their retirement, which at the moment is 65 years old. I worked at what was known as the Commission for Financial Capability, which was also the Retirement Commission, so they had two different names.
And what is it now?
The Retirement Commission.
Oh, right.
But at the time it was also called for financial capability, which made sense to me, because how do we get New Zealanders ahead heading towards retirement? We do that through financial capability. So financial capability and financial literacy are often words that are used and integrated together, but they're different. Financial literacy is about reading information and understanding how do you put these things into place. Yeah, capability is about how do you actually apply.
Literacy learning?
Absolutely.
Is there another one?
Not that I'm aware of. Or if it is, it's subpar, and if I don't know it, it's not worth knowing.
Oh, fair enough.
Anyway, so part of my job at the Commission was supporting their main website, which is Sorted. So to be clear, Sorted's not funding us.
No.
But I am mindful that is a free website that is supported by the government arm known as the Retirement Commission.
Great website, though.
It really is a great website. I highly recommend it. Yes, I have a bias.
So do I?
Yeah. Well, which we'll talk about, right? So KiwiSaver is a voluntary scheme set up by the government. It can be an easy and affordable way to save and invest for retirement years. You can choose to put either 3, 4, 6, 8, or 10% of your gross, that's before tax wage, into your your salary into a KiwiSaver account, and then employers are required to contribute close to 3% of your gross salary if you contribute. Right, then there's the annual government contribution as well. So even if you're not an employee, for every dollar that you put in, the government will match you up to $521 each year until you're 65, and your savings are invested on behalf of a KiwiSaver provider of your choice. And if you don't provide a provider, IRD will then assign you to a default KiwiSaver fund.
Just whatever bank you're with, is it?
Generally speaking, yes. So, given that, Sione, can you briefly explain how KiwiSaver works for you? And what did you have initially, and what do you have now?
I don't think I can say specifically, right?
I don't mean in terms of money. I was what did you have before in terms of how was your KiwiSaver set up for you to get you towards retirement?
So let's go to when I started working. I must have started working when I was definitely still in high school. I think that was the very moment I got money on my bank
Oh,
account.
yes. That was after you repeated that year back at Monday.
No, I did not. Thank you very much. So I think I was, year 12, year 13?
Okay.
And that's when I started my first... And that's when I opened... Oh, no, that's when I started earning income into my own bank.
Right. And what did you do at the time?
That was supporting the groundskeeper. So I was like a part-time groundskeeper in my own high school.
Right.
And cleaner. And then did that.
Mm-hmm. And at that stage, did anyone tell you what KiwiSaver was?
No one really said KiwiSaver.
Did you even
I think
notice
I just kind of looked at how much I was going to earn, and then I was like, I don't really care about what this KiwiSaver thing is about. Because I was young, there was not much information at the time. And then moved on to working at Countdown.
Okay.
And then moved on to the airport.
Right.
But in those, I think, conversations, just with KiwiSaver alone, I didn't give it much thought.
Right. And for many New Zealanders, they don't.
Nah.
In fact, in my previous role, having worked across the country, many Māori in Pacific used to think that KiwiSaver was the government's way of reminding them how much money they're taking out and keeping for themselves. So there were a lot of myths.
I think at the time for me, I didn't even think of that. Like,
well, what did you think?
Nothing.
You just thought it was
KiwiSaver
something
is just
extra.
like, oh yes, KiwiSaver. No, but how much am I earning with this job?
So you didn't even know what KiwiSaver was doing for you at the time?
I didn't think much about it at the time. But yeah, so when I jumped in the airport,
Yeah.
I think my contribution at the time was about 3%.
So 3% you were making contributions, and then obviously you were getting another 3% from your employer.
Or maybe 3, or maybe it was 2%.
Right.
I don't know if times changed.
Sure. And do you want to roughly give an estimate? How long did you work?
I was at the airport for like 5 years.
Okay.
And my KiwiSaver at the time was...
Give a rough estimate. You don't have to give an exact amount.
I'm pretty sure it was definitely less than 1,000, but I'm pretty sure...
1,000? Because you're working part-time, right?
Yeah, no, I was under a casual contract at the time.
So you worked there for 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
And your casual KiwiSaver...
It was less than 1,000.
Over 5 years.
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
That's phenomenal. And you were how old when you left?
I think I was... How old was I when I left? 22, 21
Okay.
when I left. And then I started a new gig.
Right.
So my KiwiSaver in total at the time was only... Yeah, pretty sure it was less than 1,000.
Okay.
Because I was contributing the very minimum.
Right.
3%.
What was your motivation to improve KiwiSaver for you?
For me? I think, so...
Who inspired you to get your A into G and get going with it now rather than later?
Yeah, it was definitely when I met you. Because...
Me? What a surprise. Go.
When we jumped onto the... I think I was jumping onto a new pathway in careers. Career-wise. What was it? We jumped into a new career and saw the sort of income I was going to be earning, and then we played around with the Sorted website, and there was a function on the website where it talks about, like, it predicts KiwiSaver.
Sure. The KiwiSaver retirement calculator.
Yeah. So, I actually can't remember. Something like
I'll
that.
put links on.
Yeah, put the link on there. Because I played it around for a bit, and then I was like, oh, it's a huge jump if I had changed contribution rates.
So just for context, so KiwiSaver funds come in 5 basic types, which is defensive, which is your level of risk, so that's low. So it goes defensive, conservative, balanced, growth, aggressive. Your initial KiwiSaver was in
3%, but it was
was it in defensive or conservative? Do you remember?
What's the least risk
defensive?
One? Yeah, it was defensive. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I played around, and there were different banks that offer different things, and I like the riskier type. So I think the highest risk one is known as aggressive.
Yes.
But the bank I was with at the time didn't offer that.
Right.
Oh, and I kind of looked at how well banks performed.
Yes.
And I jumped from one to another.
Great.
Oh, actually, I'm actually still currently banking with 2 banks at the moment.
Good.
But one of them.
Well, it's good that I should say this for just to be clear from my perspective, since I say good because at least you're now exploring options of which bank is working better for you. I don't have a particular favourite, but what I am interested in is how do we provide you, current relevant information based on things like sorted or other, I say like the financials market, that kind of thing to help you make informed decisions. And so you've decided actually you'll have two.
Oh yeah.
And from what you've said,
I was supposed to close one of them.
Right.
But then I think maybe I just got lazy or something. It's like, I'll just keep two.
Yeah.
But I use my old bank as just like a little bit of a rainy day one.
And
it's because I don't look at it, and maybe that's why I still keep it around.
If it works for you, why not?
Yeah. I'm still testing it. It's still a work in progress.
And that's another podcast that we can do around rainy day, right? But getting back onto KiwiSaver, so you decided to jump onto a second bank. You thought that
because this bank would perform better if I jumped on the KiwiSaver, and then
you moved from defensive to growth or aggressive?
Whatever's one under aggressive.
Growth.
It must be growth. Yeah. So I jumped on growth with the bank I'm currently on, and then I shifted my KiwiSaver from one bank to another. Well, that takes a whole process.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It certainly does.
And banks don't really like that. Apparently.
How do you know this? What was the evidence that suggested they didn't like it?
Maybe the process just took... It wasn't straightforward, really.
Do you remember the general response? Was it like, yay? Was it like, what are you doing? Did anyone say...
more like, I think they questioned. I was like, oh, hey, is there something wrong?
And what did you say?
It was like, I can't remember what my response was. It was such a long time ago. How long ago? 2-3 years ago.
My goodness.
2-3 years ago.
Wow, 1,000 days later. So long ago, Sione. So long ago.
And then, jumped with 10% with my new bank. And
okay, well, so let's jump there then. So you're 24 and you're already contributing 10% of your income to KiwiSaver. What have you noticed?
A significant jump in my KiwiSaver.
You don't have to give us an exact amount, but
yeah, it was.
Where were you at within a 3-year period?
It went from under 1,000 to what? 5 figures.
5 figures.
Yeah, which is not bad. It's definitely well over 10.
10k.
Well over 10k.
Okay.
But
closer to 20 or more 10?
More to 20.
20k within 3 years.
3 years, which is not bad. So 20, hoping 20 is hit by the end of this year. Or depending on how well my bank is performing.
Yeah.
And so, but I think beforehand there was a period where I went back to 3% because financial.
Sure. Stuff happens, right?
Stuff happens, yeah. So I was able to do that with my current job, and then went from 10 to 3. And then once I got this new job role, and then I went back to 10, and then still currently on that journey.
Right. What advice would you give someone who's hesitant about starting KiwiSaver or contributing more at your age?
I reckon jump straight onto 10. When you're really young, because you don't really see the money, and once you are on 10, you kind of get used to what money comes around.
Yes.
Because once you start on 3, when you've been on it for quite some time and you jump to 10, you'll notice the significant money difference, and it's like, I'm getting less money.
Yes.
I think you got a couple of options, which is find another job that pays better, or kind of upskill yourself so you can get a increase a pay through study or another job career.
I think what you're talking about is what we call behaviour change. It's almost like the student loan in a way that, you know how a certain amount of money gets taken away if you take a student loan out to pay your, like university or polytech fees. And eventually when you pay off your loan, you would have been accustomed to having, say, $300 or $400 taken out every fortnight. So you wouldn't have missed it, so therefore you have to reassign every dollar that would have gone towards your student loan towards a new job, which is obviously getting you ahead. Did you face any challenges or doubts when you decided to commit to a larger proportion of income to KiwiSaver?
Only for that short period when I noticed, there's less money. But over time, I kind of got used to it.
Right.
And then it's not until I jumped back to 3%, and then jumping back onto 10, it's like, I noticed the change. But I think the whole barrier is just that small small period, that small window where you're like, oh no, I'm earning
Of
less.
adjustment?
Yeah, and then over time you kind of get used to it. So I think the barrier is just that small window.
I mean, if I remember correctly, part of the reason that we even did this was because you said that you wanted to be a millionaire by the time you retired.
Oh yeah, or early retirement.
That's right. And then I said to you, I'm pretty sure if we did these things that I've been working with, we can get you there.
Yes.
And test it out, and if it works, by all means.
Yeah.
And then I reassured you that I wasn't selling triangles called pyramids.
I have tested, yes.
You have. Talk to me, Sione, from your perspective. One of the things that we know that we can do with KiwiSaver is that we can look at drawing on it for a mortgage for a house. Is that something that you're looking at? Are you looking at it, for retirement? Is it more of a first home deal? What are you kind of thinking right now?
Yeah, before, I was definitely thinking of a home.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, as time goes on, like looking at the housing crisis and
Right.
the housing markets, it's like, it's reached new heights where it seems a bit unreachable.
Right.
And I'm like, is home ownership really a thing? Well, at this moment that I'm thinking about.
Do you mean in the Auckland area?
Maybe in the Auckland area, yeah. Or looking elsewhere. But at the moment, not really thinking about moving elsewhere
Right.
other than Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now thinking about my death
Right.
at such a young age, or like where KiwiSaver can be put. I want to shout out to my mom. Because when I first started 10%, when I first started 10%, I encouraged my mom to jump 10%, and her KiwiSaver significantly jumped over.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good, and that she also saw changes.
Yeah, she definitely saw the changes, and my mom's been working with her company for quite some time. She's been a very loyal worker, and had she jumped 10% at the very beginning of her work, she would have been well and truly over 100K, I reckon.
Yes. How do you think that power of compound interest is affecting your savings?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So compound interest is the interest calculated on the principal amount and any accumulated interest, meaning you earn interest on both the money you've saved and the interest it earns, leading to an explanation, just a lot of money and growth over time.
It multiplies.
Yes.
And I think people forget that the government
whatever. I can't even believe I can't say it. Exponential. There we go.
Yeah. Oh yes, and then your employers and the government contribute
That's right.
to your KiwiSaver.
Yes.
So there's a lot of money that goes around. So that definitely climbs. And I think it's a good thing.
Right. In what way?
You get more money.
Yes.
More money
Well,
to
I'm
spend.
stating the obvious, which then, if you leave it over time, will accrue
grows.
more interest plus your new investments of money that you put in. Given that, do you kind of have a target goal for what you want for your KiwiSaver balance?
Definitely over 100K, yeah.
By when?
Okay, within 5 years, let's say another 50K.
Okay. Are you on your way, do you think, of getting there, given your current spending and saving habits?
Nope. But with my KiwiSaver, I believe, if I just leave it at 10. But definitely looking at my financial wellness. This year would be kind of a focus for me.
Right. Because before you talked about making adjustments to your fund choice, and then you went from 10 back to 3 temporarily, and you're now back where now?
10.
And then you were looking at, just because things change over time, right? So then you just need to kind of future plan, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at the moment. So I don't plan to go back to 3 anytime soon.
Right.
I'm going to try and stick to it till at least the end of the year, and then stick to it for the remaining other years.
Right.
So I think now I'm just changing my own behaviors slowly but surely.
What would you say to someone who feels like they're too young, and given that you're almost,
25?
older than me anyway, but I'm older than you, I'm just thinking, and you're 24, and whenever you say I feel old, I just think, well, what am I, ancient, what would you say to someone who feels like they're too young or don't have enough money to contribute? significantly to their KiwiSaver?
Oh, I think you're never too young to start.
Mm-hmm.
I think if parents or people becoming parents and having children, maybe start their KiwiSaver once they're young, even at an infancy stage, and just start chipping in slowly, because once that kid starts to work, then they're starting the ground running,
Right.
I guess. And
so if you were to have children, would you look at setting up?
yeah, definitely.
You would?
Yeah. And it's just like, I didn't have to worry because they got their KiwiSaver.
Interesting.
And then hopefully starting that sort of conversation, and then hopefully, and it becomes generational.
Well, that was always my inspiration for why I loved doing the work that I was doing in financial capability, because it was always about how do we help ourselves as well as those to come in 7 different generations.
And then people just start talking about KiwiSaver, like how we are, like, not really talking about a home anymore. And I'm talking about death, because
Yes.
death is quite expensive.
Yes, for those that are alive.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't matter to you. You're
I'm
dead,
dead,
God willing,
but
50, 60 years from now.
The financial burden on
Absolutely.
others, that's something I'll try and avoid. And
Well, that's one of the podcasts that we'll be doing is
in future.
Wills and Testaments.
Oh, yes.
I'm working with you and Irie around how do we do this, because it is a topic that for Māori and Pacific is not something that's openly talked about.
No.
However, when I went across the country, many people would say that they didn't have a will because they didn't have anything. And then I'd say to people, do you have KiwiSaver? And they'd be like, yes. And then I'd say to them, if you've got things like, then you definitely need a will and testament. Because what will often happen is family members might argue over it. It goes through court. And ultimately, my experience or anecdotal experience has been that the only people that benefit are lawyers.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that charge premium amounts of money. So... You're right. It's something that we would, in fact, 2 weeks from now, between all the other stuff that we're going to be doing, we should actually do a will and testament and look at those options.
Why not? We'll create our own wills.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions for this brief little podcast?
No, I guess for those listening, just play around with Sorted. It's definitely a good website. I think they've changed over time. That's not what I used to remember.
Right. Well, that would make sense because it reflects the change.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend Sorted too.
They're pretty onto it.
Well, they've got it sorted. They should include that. They should still be paying me actually to get to promote them. I love that job. I really did. I really did love that job. It was amazing.
Hopefully, they listen and invite us. Maybe.
Side note, if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have worked in microfinance. I wouldn't have worked in investments, and then I wouldn't have also worked for places like the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. And so for an addictions clinician that specialises in 8 different areas in health, I saw parallels between health and wealth going hand in hand. But I do owe a huge, acknowledgement to the Retirement Commission. Yeah. Because they do some important work. Some people think it's boring, like crackers without anything on top. However, as you get older, it becomes much more relevant. Because
are you seeing close to the end?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick. One of the most, and it continues to come up as a debate, is shifting the retirement age from 65 to 67 years old, but gradually, not overnight. And then people get into a hakahola. They get upset, like, oh, you can't do this, we're taxpayers. Whereas, to me, it made sense because at the time, one person was supporting. I'm happy to be corrected on this. One working person, I think, was supporting 4 people in retirement, right? At the moment, through paying taxes. However, in the next 20 to 30 years, that's now going to go up between 1, because we're an ageing population, and we're also a small population in terms of New Zealand. So then in the next 20 to 30 years, there'll be 1 working person will support 8 people in retirement.
Wowzers.
So actually, that model is non-sustainable, despite what people say. Actually, that's not something that I thought I want to mess with.
So that means jumping on 10% is probably the best thing you can do for the country.
I mean, that's Yes, but what would I know?
Well, what do we know?
But I think this is why. So when you said to me, could you make me a millionaire by the time? Like, actually, it's highly likely if you go onto this sort of calculator and adjust, for inflation. Or I think it's a high chance that you will. And acknowledging that KiwiSaver, like any form of investing, has highs and lows, so it's always important. Some people would freak out, like they look at their stuff the next day. I'm like, don't be ridiculous. This is a long term gain, So yes, you might lose out short term, but what does it look like long term? I always encourage people to go to a financial advisor to discuss their options. Registered and accredited.
Two different.
Yeah, because
that's a new thing that came about.
I'm just always mindful because you want people that belong to a professional body to be held accountable. Just in case something goes wrong, or that they do something. No different than us with DAPNs, the Drug and Alcohol Practitioners Association.
And social workers.
Yep, that's right. Yes, our second-class citizens. So, I'm just kidding.
He's joking. Please, don't come for
Anyway, look, that's a wrap for today's episode of our Financial Capability Standing Tall NZ podcast. A huge thank you to Sione for sharing your personal insights and experience with KiwiSaver, proving that starting early really can make all the difference. If you found today's conversation helpful, be sure to follow us so that you never miss an episode. And when you're ready to take control of your financial future, remember every little step counts. So go onto the Sorted website, just like Sione has been doing. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to explore, don't hesitate to reach out. Until next time, keep standing tall, looking ahead. Modi order. This is the part where you say goodbye, Sione.
See ya.
This podcast has been brought to you today by standingtallnz.org.